Welcome to Non-Fiction Reviews. Sylvia Plath's Ariel is a collection of poems published posthumously, 2 years after her death in 1963. The collection is known for its intense and raw emotional content, with many of the poems dealing with themes of mental illness, death, and female empowerment. One of the most striking aspects of Ariel is the language itself. Plath's use of imagery and metaphor creates a vivid and often disturbing world that draws the reader in. In Lady Lazarus, for example, Plath uses powerful and unsettling images of death and resurrection to explore her own struggles with suicide and depression. The poem's final lines, "Out of the ash, I rise with my red hair, and I eat men like air," have become some of Plath's most famous. Another key theme in Ariel is Plath's exploration of femininity and the female experience. In The Applicant, Plath critiques the societal pressure on women to conform to traditional gender roles and get married. The poem is written from the perspective of a man interviewing potential wives, highlighting the objectification and commodification of women. Plath's use of irony and sarcasm highlights the absurdity of these gender roles and the ways in which they limit women's opportunities. Many of the poems in Ariel also deal with death and the fear of death. In Edge, Plath writes about her own suicide attempts and the struggle to find meaning in life. The poem's final lines, "And I am the arrow, the dew that flies, suicidal, at one with the drive, into the red eye, the cauldron of morning," suggest a sense of acceptance and even transcendence in the face of mortality. Throughout Ariel, Plath also explores the idea of identity and the struggle to define oneself in a world that often tries to impose limits and labels. In Daddy, Plath addresses her tumultuous relationship with her father, a man she describes as a Nazi and a vampire. The poem's use of vivid and grotesque imagery is a powerful exploration of the ways in which our relationships with our parents can shape our sense of self. Finally, Ariel is notable for its exploration of the creative process itself. Many of the poems in the collection deal with the act of writing, with Plath exploring the tension between the desire for self-expression and the fear of exposing oneself to criticism and rejection. In Fever 103 Degrees, for example, Plath writes about the intensity of the creative impulse and the ways in which it can consume and transform the writer. Here are 5 takeaways from the book. 1. Plath's poetry explores themes of mental illness and personal struggle. Ariel was published after Plath's death and features poems that deal with her experiences with depression, suicidal thoughts, and the pressure of societal expectations. 2. The collection's title poem, Ariel, is one of Plath's most famous works. The poem, which is filled with vivid and often disturbing imagery, portrays the speaker's experience of riding a horse, also named Ariel, toward death. The poem is often seen as a metaphor for Plath's own struggles with suicidal ideation. 3. Plath's poetry is characterized by its confessional style and deeply personal subject matter. Ariel is no exception, as many of the poems deal with Plath's personal experiences and emotions. Plath's willingness to delve into difficult and painful topics was groundbreaking for her time, and her work has had a significant influence on confessional poetry. 4. Plath's use of language is striking and often visceral. Many of the poems in Ariel feature vivid and sometimes violent imagery, as well as unconventional syntax and word choice. Plath's experimental style helped to push the boundaries of what was considered acceptable in poetry, and continues to influence poets today. 5. Plath's work is often seen as feminist, as she challenges traditional gender roles and societal expectations in many of her poems. In Ariel, Plath frequently examines the ways in which women are oppressed and objectified, particularly in the context of romantic relationships. Through her poetry, Plath gave voice to many of the frustrations and struggles experienced by women during her time and continues to be a powerful voice for feminist thought today. In conclusion, Sylvia Plath's Ariel is a powerful and complex collection of poetry that explores themes of mental illness, femininity, mortality, identity, and the creative process. Through vivid and often disturbing imagery and metaphor, Plath creates a world that is both deeply personal and universal, inviting the reader to explore their own struggles and fears. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel for more content on non-fiction. Let us know in the comments what other non-fiction books you like to see on our channel.